You're gonna need hand sanitizer, soap, and a gallon of bleach. You're gonna need baking soda, vinegar, and peroxide to kill the disease. You're gonna need gloves, hazmat suits, and chlorine for the job because some people in the world think things are too dirty for God. We treat sin and sinners like Ebola, and churches should be the hospital in tents. But instead we quarantine the crippled because we believe their germs are too intense. We quarantine the blind not to pervert our own lens. Then we quarantine the sinners so that we won't get dirty from their mess. But newsflash, sin isn't contagious. Sin is not the kryptonite to our maker. Sin is simply the kryptonite to our makeup. Sin has us living like the living dead, rotting flesh, covered in makeup. But Jesus takes the living dead and makes their sinful living dead, conquering sin by tearing the grave up. So why do we act like sin has any power post-cross? When the post of the cross gave Jesus the power to get the dead in the crypt to raise up. But look at the arguments we raise up. Then look at the amount of grace that he gave us. Yet with hazmat suits, we get so mad at you for getting closer to the people on which we gave up. When these are the very same people for which Jesus gave up his life to bring people from death. So if death was conquered in the cross, then why are so many of us so cross, and what in the world are we so afraid of? Like once upon a time we weren't sick and diseased. Then he took our sinful disease and embraced us, erasing the line between the sacred and the profane to get your profane name out the flames and cause you and the Father to make up. But now it looks like we were cured from Ebola and got amnesia, because we so easily forget the disease that we so discreetly harbored in secret, hoping no one could see the degree to which we dabbled in the sickness and attempted to blot it out with the bleach kit. Getting dirty during the week then, coming from the street to sit in the pews and pretend to be clean with just enough Jesus, sprinkled in to convince the dim-witted Christians we sleep with that we were magically transformed in our suit and tie and the head dresses with the sequin dresses from the seamstress, outwardly clean but inwardly diseased with every foul thing that so easily deceives believers. And a doctor's coat doesn't make you a physician. Oh, what a sickness has overtaken us Christians, no longer showing the symptoms of the flu. We take the symptomatic few and critique them, not realizing that we have a lesion, but not lesion like demons, but lesion like an external sign of an internal growth with secretions from internal bleeding. We say sinners are too dirty for God. Oh, but how unworthy we are. We deceive them, selling the idea that clean is from the outside in and not the inside out, when God was locked outside then and then brought our insides out. What was outside then took an inside route. While we were outside him, he brought us inside now. And do you know how he did it? By becoming our sickness. Jesus died to make sick people well, not to just make churchgoers Christians. But if we won't touch the sick well, how will the sick ever get well? Here's how Jesus made the sick well. He, his sacred lamb, became the embodiment of our sickness. The sacred became secular so that the secular could become sacred. The sacred became secular so that the secular could become sacred. The sacred became secular so that the secular could become sacred. But you're going to need some hand sanitizer, soap, and a gallon of bleach. You're going to need baking soda, vinegar, and peroxide to kill the disease. You're going to need gloves and hazmat suits and chlorine for the job, because some people in the world think things are too dirty for God. I thought we were supposed to be immune. Seems like we're still vulnerable to me, because we condemn what God has redeemed and we mock what God has considered clean. We forgot too that we were asleep in the tomb. The seed of sin conceived in a demon's womb, birthed into iniquity, destined for doom. But the sacred Jesus intermingled with my secular and took me from a stillbirth to born again in one single move. So what is all this fuss about? The spirit and the music? Well, if Satan is the prince over the power of the air, then when he was kicked out of heaven, who started playing the tunes then? Isn't heaven full of worship right now without him? The religious claim that they are living for God, but they focus more on the devil and sin than about him. The religious think they're doing God a favor when in their heart of hearts they doubt him. The God of the religious is autoimmune deficient, so he can't afford to have any dirt around him. But the God of the Bible went head first into our afflictions, so that sin and sickness would no longer be a shroud around them. He tore up the hazmat suits, the veil in the temple. He left the shroud rent, so that the sick will become healthy by the healthy becoming sick. Jesus absorbed all the sickness that surrounds men. So then tell me, is there anything too dirty for God? When God became dirt, that's what he made Adam from first. Mixed with water, this is the clay that he is molding as his church. Oh, how clean we look now. We've got it all figured out. Creating a celebrity boutique that's designed to keep the clean in and the dirty people out. What a shame. What happened to his name? See, we weren't dirty. We were dirt. We weren't hurting. We were hurt. We weren't just cursing. We were cursed. We weren't a genre. We were just noise and words. And then the word became flesh and dwelt among us, taking our sinful sonic dissonance and turning it into melodious covers. The earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof, my sisters and brothers. The Lord himself should be the only thing that is above us. For God's clean version touched our explicit version as a sign that he loved us. So you're not going to need any hand sanitizer, no soap, and no gallon of bleach. You're not going to need any baking soda or vinegar, because Jesus killed the disease. Jesus was the undercover boss with the dirtiest job. And now he's using formerly dirty people and formerly dirty things to bring the dirty back to God.